Hello and welcome to another edition of the American Scouser podcast. My name is Cozzy from England. We have Tim from Turkey, and we actually do have an American tonight. We have Chris with us. How are we, guys?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
The only American representing tonight.
That's it, representing the American Scouser. I'm the Scouser part. So there we go. I'll take it.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but okay, keep going.
Before we have a bit of a catch up tonight, lads, about the Reds and things. Probably the least we say about international football, the better. But Tim, I'll come to you. How boring is it when Liverpool just don't play?
Man, it feels odd. Like the whole weekend felt odd. And especially like my daughter didn't have a soccer game either. So it was like very soccerless. I did watch some international football. Leave it to Turkey to make the Andorra game a thriller. But I think they had like 28 attempts on goal or something and ended up scoring in the 90th minute out of a corner kick. So it's partially interesting because Turkey's in it for once kind of thing. But it's boring after all. I mean, the quality of the game is so much lower compared to Premier League. I mean, even if I'm not watching the Reds, you're watching a Premier League game, and the quality of the game, it's played a lot better. I mean, in international football, automatically the quality is lower because people are not as used to each other. These guys go for a camp for 3 days or whatever, but. It's kind of like hard watching, but it is football. What are you going to do? And it's the only football that's on. I ended up converting to American football on Sunday, but yeah, I can't wait for Saturday, man. Just bring it back for God's sakes. I think, is this the last international break for a while, I hope, or what?
I don't know. I think they've got another one in end of October, I think. I think they have another one.
Yeah, I believe it's either the end of October or the beginning of November.
Oh, God. Wow.
Oh, it looks like middle of October it is. October 10th and 13th. So mark your calendars for those guys.
Oh, nice. That's a good time to start painting the house.
Well, I guess that's when I know my housework will get done again.
Yeah, man. Chris, I'll come to you, mate. And, Chris is one of the new guys, so this is his first podcast. We'll go easy on him all. Fella, what's your take on international football? Really, coming from America, where your team it has been pretty good. I know they never qualified for the last World Cup. Are you big into your international football? Are you like me, where it's just like the death to the world when it's on? I have literally next to no interest. I couldn't even tell you who England played on Friday, but I just know they played on Friday. But what are your thoughts on the international football?
I mean, as an American, you're right. The United States have been pretty poor here in the last few years. We have some bright spots, but I haven't really followed much of the United States national team. Well, I have a little Dutch in me, so I do follow the Dutch national team. Obviously, watching Wijnaldum and Van Dijk out there supporting the Reds, and international football to me just doesn't keep my appeal as much as club football. So going back to what Tim said, it was kind of an odd weekend. I got a lot of stuff done around the house. I got to catch up on some American football, but I'm ready for the Premier League to get back into swing.
Yeah, Tim, I think I don't know what it is. And, I think we spoke about before, doing a bigger podcast on this about especially Liverpool with the international scene, where literally there's no interest at all in the city, from the city really into the country. I think it's one of those, especially with your upbringing and where you're from, like I say. So you follow your Turkey. Do you ever keep up to date with any other teams apart from the ones that involve Liverpool players?
I think it's like one of those things where, like, if I turn on the TV just like, to kill time or have something in the background, the first thing I look under is sports, and the first thing I look is football. So if anybody's playing, I'm one of those guys that, there could be like two Mexican teams playing. If it's on, I'm just going to turn it on, even if for like background noise or whatever. We're kind of like a soccer family, like everybody plays and watches and stuff like that. So I'll watch like a lot of like casual football. Like, what did I watch? I was just watching an international game. I can't even tell you who that was playing. But I watched it. It was on, and I was like, I watched it for like 15, 20 minutes.
Really?
Because it's just a game. I just love the game. And, like there's always like a couple of players, and you kind of like watch. It's just kind of like something to watch kind of thing. Like, people turn on and watch SportsCenter for hours, like in a loop, mind you. I don't, but I do. I can like watch hours of like random worthless soccer games, if you will. But I'll just watch it because I love the game. I mean, like you say, since Turkey is in it, they've had a couple of like good scores, and I kind of like the roster a lot more. A lot of young kids, a lot of young guys that play in Europe and stuff like that, in the Premier League and stuff. So they're like a lot more fun to watch and interesting because I think it's going to be a good team. Maybe like 3-4 years down the road, like when we're going to the World Cup and stuff. It's very promising. So. I mean, there are guys, who play in the Premier League in Leicester, like Jenkins at Everton. He doesn't get to play a lot, but there are guys like who play in Juventus and stuff like that. So it's promising. I'll watch it. It's just the quality, obviously, is not there. And let's face it, most of the international break, if you're watching a game, you're just hoping for, avoiding injury at this point. You're spending like 10 days praying for no injuries. And it's almost like, like for example, the Brazil game, I didn't get to watch it, but I know Bobby played the whole game almost, and Fabinho did not play. It's almost like for the, we like the players that we have a very likable Reds team. So on a personal level, you want the guy to play in the national team. It's good for him, and he likes playing for the national team, pride and stuff like that. But the Red in you says, man, I hope he doesn't play, so that he doesn't get injured. So it's kind of like a mixed feeling I get when I watch any game that includes a Red.
Yeah, I watch the World Cup. I do watch the Euros. I don't watch England either. I just don't like the biased commentary that we get towards England players. I think that's one of my other cases as well, without going too deep into it. I think the biasness around England players, especially in the Premier League, is a joke, to be fair. Harry Kane dives every week, but as soon as Salah has a little nudge, well, he's the biggest diver in the world. I don't see any headlines about Harry Kane and things like that. So that's the kind of things that I see, like, double-sided. But Chris, I'll come to you. With the US team, and it's been poor in the last couple of years, but I think Tim's hit the nail kind of on the head, really. If you have a couple of good, young, exciting players, it does really spark your interest. I know we can all, it's Pulisic, of course, he's the one who's going to be standing out, but there's people like Tyler Boyd and things like that. I can't believe that Jose Altidore is still playing for them. Is he about 44 now?
He's getting there. He's getting there.
I think he's been about 44 for 5 years. But is that what really sparks your interest, I think, in most teams? If you've got a couple of good young players, that really catches your interest again?
I mean, we do have a couple good young players. I think we need a manager that can do a little better than what the current manager has been doing. Going out against Mexico the other day and getting wiped off the floor 3-0 doesn't look good, especially when it comes to playing the Mexican national team. Pulisic's good. He's really good. Weston McKennie is another one that I think is going to be really good.
Schalke? Schalke, is he?
Yeah, Schalke.
Yeah, Schalke, I thought so, yeah.
Bobby Woods as well. I'd like to see him come back in and get more playing time. I think he's with Hamburg over in Germany right now. There's a good young core. It's just giving the repetition. Like Tim said, 3-4 years. If that core is still very, very young, you throw in Zardes in there as well as Jordan Morris, and you have a pretty lethal attack. So I think with a few years, it'll be a little more interesting, and I think the Americans will come back around and support their team, kind of like they did the women's national team at the World Cup this year. But if the core doesn't start functioning well enough soon, they may not qualify for the next World Cup either, and that could be very detrimental to the program.
Definitely, I think it's disastrous if they don't qualify. I think it's an absolute disaster. You can always forgive one. England never qualified in '94. Holland never qualified last time out. You can always forgive one. I think I always thought with the US, especially as an outsider, of course, looking in, it's the way you guys done things. So, for example, at 18 in the UK, you're going to be a Premier League footballer or not. You kind of know where you're at. You're on a 3-year plan of when you're going to be playing in the Premier League. Where in the US, I always thought to stop your progression because you guys go to school first and go and study for 3 years or 4 years, and then you come out at 22, 23, and then you basically start like a Premier League, a career. Where in the UK, you've been playing 4 or 5 years of top level football at that age, and I think the players that you just mentioned, like McKenzie, who's now in Germany, and I think it was Woods, who else you said, Bobby Woods, who's now playing in Germany. I think
Yeah.
Pulisic might have kind of bucked the trend there, but he went away early, didn't go to school, and went, no, we're going to Dortmund early doors. And you can see the kind of level where he's got to because of that. Because he hasn't been, his progression hasn't really been altered or changed because he's been playing around top level players at 17, 18. And you can kind of see that the level he's got. I think, Tim, I'll come to you because, of course, this podcast is kind of based around the American fan base. I think with the progression that Pulisic's gone on, and you see the other good players that Chris just mentioned there, all playing in Germany, I think you're going to see a lot more of the US players not really going to school and kind of going abroad to go, no, I need to go and, take a chance on my abilities here in case their progression kind of becomes stagnated.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure the better competition you face day in and day out is going to make you a better player. I mean, that's for like any sport. So, you can tell by, these guys who play in Germany and stuff like that, the way they play and stuff like that, the speed of the game is like the biggest difference, really. It's kind of like, for like Americans, it's like playing football in Canada versus playing in the NFL. I mean, yeah, it's the same game, but there's a huge speed difference. There's a huge skill difference. So when you practice against that, obviously it's going to make you a better player. I mean, I think with the American national team, because I do follow it obviously, and watch them like I watched the Mexico game. I think the biggest thing they have is they put too much on one or two players. I mean, Pulisic is like a great player. He's a young kid. And, he wants to take on the responsibility and all that kind of stuff, which, I don't know, we'll probably talk about the penalty kick because that was kind of like mind-boggling to me, for example. But I feel like it's one of those things, like you watch that game, it's almost like you have one guy and everybody just passes the ball to him and it's like, make something happen. Like, we were watching with my wife and I told her, like, it reminded me of the time where maybe like 4 or 5 seasons ago, it almost felt like all we had was Coutinho.
Yeah.
And so when you couldn't open a game up, like when you had a team that was like really compact and like, well formed and, like defending well, like people would keep giving the ball to Coutinho and be like, make something happen. And it was like one guy going against like 10, and then maybe he had a miraculous shot, but most of the time, like, we lost the ball. We couldn't we couldn't open up a defense and stuff. I get the same feeling when I watch them again playing against Mexico. It's everybody, like whoever gets the ball looks up to see where Chris is. And then they give him the ball, and then he does a couple of moves, but then, it's easier to defend when you're defending against one guy. Because, you can kind of double them up, you can kind of like space them out accordingly. So that's like, I think the biggest thing, they just got to develop more of these guys. And the only way to do that is, yes, play in better leagues. But at the same time, are they skilled enough to be able to go to those leagues and start? I mean, you go there. I think that's, I don't want to keep bringing it back to the Turkish national team, for example. But, okay, like a good example is Cenk Tosun, who plays actually for Everton. Yeah. Well, he's at Everton. He doesn't really play for them. So you have these players that are in great leagues, like Merih Demiral is actually at Juventus. He's trying to get an opportunity to play and stuff. So they're at least practicing against good competition, but they're not getting as much playing time and minutes either. So it's kind of like you got to pick your poison. Do you go there and practice day in and day out against good competition, or do you play on a team where you're going to play regularly and get 90 minutes all the time? And I think in terms of like the US, I think in the long run, they're not going to learn or get a lot better playing in Major League Soccer. I hate to say it. It's almost like they got to go to these better leagues like the German league, the Premier League, La Liga, and stuff like that to go against good players. So when you go to the national duty and you're playing against these guys, you've been there, done that. Whereas you play Major League Soccer, you're playing against some quality guys, but they're like well above their age, like Ibrahimovic and stuff like that. Yeah. Ideally, you should be playing against people at their peak.
Yeah, I think, my argument is that when they're 17, 18, that's when they're leaving school. And then you might go to college for 2-3 years. At 18, we know if you're a Premier League player or you're on a path to be a Premier League player. And these guys are going to college and basically, I don't want to say stagnating because they are getting a career outside of, soccer. But let's get one thing straight, guys. One Premier League contract and you're set for life. That's it. You break your leg, at 22, might never play again, you're set for life. Because that's the kind of money that's involved. And I think what Pulisic has done it's booking the trend for other players to go, wait there, if I do send my kid away at 16, 17 to Dortmund in these camps with these better players, that he can get to that level. We all look at players, especially for the US national side, Landon Donovan, say Dempsey, two legends of the game for the USA. They played most of their career, but Dempsey was most of his career in the Premier League with Fulham, Spurs. Donovan played a little brief stint with Everton a couple of times, but he was mostly in the MLS. Dempsey was twice the player that Landon Donovan was. I know players that might want to hear that because I know how much Donovan's much revered in this country, but Dempsey was twice the player because he was playing with better players. My argument is, Chris, is that what they've seen with Pulisic, if you're not a kid now at 16, 17, and you're not a parent and go, you know what, I've got something in my boy, and the boy's, he's got something about him, and the coaches are telling me, I wouldn't want to be sending him to college. I know that might be a bit pushy of a father, and maybe not being like, the most, I can't really get the word, but, maybe looking out best what is for my son. But if your son has got this ability, you don't want him to go to college and become stagnant. What's the point of being the best player at college? There's no, it's like being the best player in your under 12s. What's the point? Go and be the best player at Liverpool in the under 12s. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's at that stage where these are the players. I think if you're a parent now, I want to get your take on it. Would you be pushing him to go to Europe? I know it's a big thing at 16, 17 to do, but I think it's the only way to get to them levels of that where Pulisic's at right now.
Well, and I think it also kind of depends on the player. I mean, if the player's ambition is to do that, then yes. I mean, as a parent, like my daughter is going to be 3 here in the next week, and we've already started working with the ball. And my goal is to help her improve in ball handling and anything that she can, so that way when she gets to the age and she's ready where she wants to pick a certain thing and a certain sport to focus on, that's what I want to do for her. Because as a person with a college degree and a lot of debt, I wish my parents would have done the same thing for me. Had I been given that opportunity to do something like that, like go to Europe and work with the club and go to the academy and all of that, in a heartbeat, that would be what I would want to be. But my parents and a lot of parents around, especially around my area, it's school first, school first, sports, and then God forbid you get a job, it's school, job, then sports. Yeah. And that's just how it is in the Midwest. And it sucks because I had a kid that I played with in high school, and he had Russian heritage, and he's actually a cousin to Andrei Arshavin.
Oh, yeah.
And he got him into an academy over in Russia, and his junior year left school and went to Russia and played for the U18s for 2 years until he broke his leg.
Wow.
But, we never had that opportunity around here. One, most parents may not be able to afford it, especially in today's economy.
Yeah,
especially in my area, it's difficult for parents to afford some things like that, and it's hard for some people to be put into certain programs to do that. But if the player wants to do it, and if my child came to me and said, "This is what I want to do," I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to make that happen for them. Because like you said, one contract could set you for life.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's, Tim, I think Chris kind of just touched on it there, really. It's like, there has to be more. For me, as I said, I've lived here for 2 years now. I go and watch Sacramento Republic, who are in the USL. They are applying to go into the MLS. And the quality's decent. It's a decent level. But I do think, I can go and pick guys, 17, 18, from Liverpool, from the street to Liverpool, who can give them a game. And I'm not being disrespectful, I mean, because it's just a level we played at. Because all everything is football. We don't play at, I'll give you a bit of an insider to the US listeners. We don't really play many other sports in the UK in our PE lessons. We might do a bit of rugby, a bit of cricket. If you want to know what cricket is, give it a Google. But it's everything is just football. That's all that's rammed down your throat. There's no athletic programs, there's no golf programs or anything like that. There's nothing. It's no American football, of course, no basketball. It's football. And that's all you play, and for the whole life. I think there has to be, Tim, I'll kind of come to you, I think there has to be more of a path for these kids who are 16, 17, or maybe more funding, where they can go abroad and go, you know what, he has got the talent. He is the best player at 17 by a mile. Why can't we get the funding together on these kind of programs to send them here without the parents being out of pocket and go, right, let's see what he has got, basically.
And that goes back to what Chris is saying, though. I think an American parent is a lot more likely to, push their kids to what you would call American sports, so that, they can kind of progress because they see the money being made and, it's in the U.S. So, I mean, you were talking earlier about like the college, what's the point in playing college and stuff like that for like, football. But for, let's say soccer, so it doesn't get confusing. But if like the college system is a great system if you're looking to go pro for, a top U.S. sport. If it's like basketball, football, baseball, hockey, it is an avenue. You go to college and then from there you can get, you get drafted and you go pro. So it's almost like you're on your way if you're in college. I almost feel like some of these other sports, like, let's say, soccer, lacrosse and stuff like that, I almost feel like when the parents, have their kid playing that sport at a travel level, at an advanced level, it's really more for them to play college and that's it, or get a free ride to college and stuff and that's it. Like if you, when you ask, my daughters both played. I mean, my older daughter's in college now. My younger daughter plays travel soccer. I mean, I guarantee you, if I go to anybody there, and maybe it is because it's like, women's soccer, but if I ask them, what's the limit, most of them are going to say that's the limit, getting a free ride to college and end of story. I think that's like the biggest problem is, like for, when these guys do play soccer, like their goal is, get a free ride to college and then we'll see what happens. And it goes back to what you're saying. By the time you see what happens, it's too late. You're too old. You're too old to develop at that point and make a career in a good league and stuff like that. And I think being away, I mean, your only hope, I don't think you're ever going to be able to, going back to like what you were asking, like in terms of funding and stuff like that, to send these people to schools over there, like academies and stuff like that. The key is going to be, when are those academies going to be here? Because there's a lot of, I mean, in terms of like potential, obviously number-wise and facility-wise, there's a lot that can be done here. I just don't think they have, I mean, I can tell you for, like I say, for girls soccer in Midwest and Chicagoland area, there's probably, I mean, God knows how many clubs. There's probably like 100 clubs. But I think there's only 2 or 3 of them that actually have qualified coaches that, teach the game and, make the players develop and stuff. So I don't think you're ever going to get the funding to send these people over there. Hopefully you're going to get enough interest to bring those schools here and have those kids go to those academies over here. I think that's the only way that kind of like progresses and you develop top quality players right here in the U.S.
And to touch on that, you also have to talk about uprooting the child and, sending them overseas. You're not talking passport fees, visa fees, everything that goes along with being an American citizen in the UK or in Europe in general. You have to secure all of that stuff before you can even go. Whereas if you can bring over 3 or 4 academy coaches and come over and set up your scouting system and your system in the United States and have a specific base camp and just scout all throughout the Midwest, the Southwest, the Pacific, all of the area, your chances of getting players of that quality into those programs are so much more higher just because you're not having to change everybody's lifestyle to a European lifestyle. You can stay here, you can get the drills, you can get the training, they can teach you the game the way it deserves to be taught, if I'm speaking properly, without, and still have the comfort of being with your family for moral and, emotional support. I mean, that's a big thing. And some parents can't just uproot their entire life and just go overseas with their child. And you never want to send your kid anywhere without being there, within shouting distance to make sure that they're perfectly okay at all hours of the day. So I see where, the parents come from, but at the same aspect, I agree with Tim, when are those programs going to start coming here so they can have that opportunity?
I think it's the biggest untouched market in the world.
I do too. I honestly do too.
I think
you have so many different cultures in this country.
Yeah.
And if you could get 4 or 5 big clubs to come over and set up camps throughout all aspects of or all areas of the country, it's picking grounds. You have Mexican internationals, you have, Japanese, Chinese, you have a whole arraignment of national, maybe not just American, but, maybe American and Mexican or, whatever their culture may be. You have such a diverse population that you could choose from and grow.
I think it's, again, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's, as I say, not just because it is the biggest untouched market. I think a lot of parents in the US, of course, are just not maybe well educated on how the system works over in Europe also, where you don't need to play in the Premier League. You can play in a league 3 leagues below and still in a very good living. And it feels like here with the American sport, it's either NBA or nothing, the NFL or nothing. That's like, it's college NFL. There's not really like, I know you might get the odd in-between league, but there's not many. And it's not really paid the kind of money that you want them to. I think, again, maybe it's different for us guys because we watch a lot of soccer. And if you see your child at 15, 16, you actually go, you know what? They've got a lot of ability. Like, they're the best player in the team by a mile. They're scoring 60 goals every season. The other teams are getting 20. You can see something in them. And I think it's, again, I think you are onto something. We're building the camps over here, ready-made, ready to go. But I think it's the mindset of also parents where they're based on the US outlook on things. Well, I just wanted to get to college. As Tim said, it's a free ride to college. Yeah, but what's beyond college? Do you want to become a dentist? Where he could go on, and hit $120,000 a week. That's again, I think it's also about the education side of things as well. With the parents, and I think when soccer gets bigger, they only go, you know what, he doesn't need to play in the Premier League or the Bundesliga or La Liga. You can play in three leagues below and still earn a very, very good amount of money. So I think it's interesting. I think it's just an interesting topic, especially on the base of international football, really. So that was quite interesting. So we'll move on a little bit. You know what, Tim? I want to talk about sort of my favourite subject, right? Let's talk about the Reds. Right?
Let's do it. What the hell?
Right?
Why not?
Fucking first month of the season. You've won 4 out of 4. You're top of the league. You've won the Super Cup with a sub goalie who's released by West Ham, training with in the 4th division of the Spanish league. It can't really get any better for the Reds at the moment, can it?
No, really. I mean, everything seems to be going the way it should, right? I mean, and I think that's what's more this international, break makes it even harder. You're like, let's keep going. That's why you hate these breaks when everything is kind of like rolling the way it should. Let's keep going. I mean, the only positive that I can draw out of this break is it buys us basically kind of like like an extra week and a half, 2 weeks for like Alisson to get back. Aside from that, I mean, yeah, everything is rolling the way it should be. It's almost like now, can we get there? There's some like big games coming up. Yeah, man. I mean, that's what makes this international break so hard. I think everything is on the up and up right now. I read today that Naby should be back shortly too. So no injuries apart from like Alisson, which is always good. I think like with the League Cup and starting now, I think some of these guys will get more minutes and they'll get their chance as well. We'll get to see those guys in action. Everything's on the up. That's why kind of like, everybody is kind of content. God forbid if there was like a bad result in the first 4 weeks, it would be like, you'd be hearing like 2 weeks of bitching. And that's like the only good thing about this is, it's 4-4. So everybody's content. It's pretty quiet. It's more like the anticipation of like what's to come more than anything else.
Yeah. Chris, I'll come to you, fella. 4-4, Super Cup. I think for Liverpool fans, and this is a shout out to all of them out there, Liverpool are not going to win every game. Liverpool are not going to win the next 45 games, as much as I would love
to. What kind of blasphemy is that?
I'm sorry, I know it's not. Honestly, guys, it's a long shot, I know, but I don't think they're going to win the next 45 games because I want them to win the Champions League as well. But Chris, I come to you. I think Liverpool fans do need to keep composed. I think it's the perfect start. Alisson back, Naby's coming back. Ryan Brewster's going to be coming through. Shaqiri got a few minutes against Burnley. Is there any better time than being a Red at the moment?
No, there really isn't. You know, this international break came, like Tim said, everything was flowing really well. We gave up a few goals, but for the most part, you know, there were some sloppy goals. I won't pinpoint one, but Adrian. But you know, I feel right now we're in the calm before the storm. You know, we have a busy week coming up fixture-wise. Newcastle comes to Anfield on Saturday for the early kickoff. Then we have to go to Napoli, and then we go to Chelsea. Mm-hmm. So these next 3 games are going to be very, very important. I think that Newcastle is kind of like a trap game for us. I hope that we're not overlooking it, and I hope that Klopp gets everybody on the same page and they're not thinking about what happened in Naples last year before Tuesday's match. But everything seems to be great. You know, if we can get through this international break injury-free, and I think we only have, Brazil tomorrow, and I think we're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's a great place to be. Top of the league. City's behind us. So that's all we could ever ask for.
It literally, it is the perfect time to be a Red. I'm 27. I've never seen it as good as this. Trust me, I've under Rafa, mate, and Rafa was wonderful, mate. It was never as good as this team. Honestly, you're looking at it, I wouldn't swap anyone in the world. I like every single player. I mean, because Mignolet's left now, that helps. But
poor Migs.
Come on, bro. Right? Don't give me that. Oh, he was a good shot stopper. Look, it's his job. It's his job. Oh, he's a good shot stopper. No shit. He's been doing it since he was 4.
He's just going to get out of the way of the shots.
Oh, does not get his hands in the way of the shots. Wow. What a shot stopper. Oh, he's a great professional. Yeah, his best ever season was the one last season when he didn't play. Yeah, so I like, as I said, I like every single player. I can't, honestly, we could sit here and talk all night about the Reds, but I'm only going to tell you this is the best days of our lives, really, innit? Let's be fair. Tim, I'll come to you. I know we're going to go into the our preview, guys, of the Newcastle game on Thursday. It should be out Thursday night. I'll come to you, but we'll just tiny little touch on it right now. You couldn't ask for a better team or a better game after an international break, could you really?
Yeah, I mean, you're home. But going back to what Chris is saying, it's probably a big trap game at the same time, isn't it? Because it almost looks too good. But I mean, that's one thing about this team. Even someone like me, who you know me, I worry about everything possible. Even it gives me confidence in terms of like going into a game like this, because especially at Anfield, with most people, most of the players coming off fresh, we're going to be able to put out the exact 11 we want. It should be a good game to get things going. And then, like Chris was saying, we go to the Napoli away game, and I know that we're looking too far ahead, but I don't see that as crucial of a game as, the other ones in the group, to be honest with you. I mean, it's the first. I'm kind of like glad that that's the first game away. We'll have something to prove because we did play miserably over there last year. We were lucky to get away with a loss that was only in the last minute. It almost looked like an unlucky loss, but let's face it. I mean, that game was pretty ugly. It's probably like one of the worst games we played all season, really. But yeah, the Chelsea game I think is like the biggest game in like when you look at like the September fixtures, and because our game is like Sheffield United. So it looks like a lot better schedule than like August was. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, Newcastle, man. I mean, it should be easy. Let's just hope we don't fall into that trap. Start hard and get the early lead and keep building from there. And I just don't give these guys a chance to kind of sit back and wait too much.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think it's a perfect game. We'll kind of go into it a bit more in depth on Thursday. We'll probably leave it there, guys. Not really much going on. I don't want to talk about international football. I'd rather talk about watching the paint dry on the wall when I'm painting this wall tomorrow. Literally no interest at all. As long as they're not injured, absolutely fine with me. Any other business, guys?
No, just bring back the Reds, man.
Bring back the Reds, indeed. Right, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you everyone so much for listening. Go on to Facebook. It's Liverpool FC America. Come in, join the group. Have a bit of a convo with us. Call us idiots. Hashtag not my captain. Get involved. You know, I might, if you're going to write some silly things, I might comment some silly things. But get involved. Call me them kind of things. It's wonderful. We're all at a great time. The Reds have won 4-4. They've won the Super Cup. We're going to win the lot. We're the greatest team in the world. Look at us. We've got Virgil van Dijk, the Ballon d'Or winner, soon to be. Salah's the best striker in the world. Don't give me a Fabinho's the best centre midfielder in the world. This is the best days of your lives, guys. Keep on being unbearable. Have a good night.